The beeping sound woke Kate Wilson from her light sleep. She sat up quickly in her office chair, blinking away tiredness. The small room aboard the Earth Defense Station Sentinel was dimly lit, with only the glow of screens providing light. Kate had been working late again, reviewing defense protocols and ship deployment strategies. As commander of Earth's newest space station, she had many responsibilities. The beeping got louder. It wasn't a normal alert, this was different. "Report," Kate said, pressing a button on her desk. "Commander, we're picking up a signal. It's not from Earth or any of our ships," said the voice of Sam Green, the night shift communications officer. Kate stood up and straightened her uniform. "I'm on my way." The hallways of the station were quiet this late in the night cycle. Only a few crew members moved about, doing their essential duties. The station had been operational for just over a year, the pride of humanity's venture into space defense. With recent breakthroughs in faster-than-light travel, Earth had begun to wonder what else or who else might be out there among the stars. Now they had their answer. The command center buzzed with activity when Kate entered. Officers moved between stations, talking in low, urgent voices. Sam Green stood at his communications console, his face pale in the blue light of his screen. "Put it on the main display," Kate ordered. The large screen at the front of the room flickered to life. Strange symbols scrolled across it, unlike any language Kate had seen before. "It's broadcasting on all frequencies, Commander," Sam said. "The signal is coming from about 20 light-years away. We're still working on translating it, but the basics are coming through. Show me what you have." Sam nodded and pressed a few buttons. The alien text disappeared, replaced by a rough translation. "Help. Under attack. Planet Nova. Drakthar forces. Destruction imminent. Help us, anyone." Kate read the words twice. "You're sure this is real?" "Yes, Commander. The signal pattern matches no known Earth format, and it's coming from the direction of Tau Ceti. We've detected unusual energy readings from that sector for months, but nothing conclusive until now." Kate turned to her second-in-command, Rick Harris. "Get Admiral Carter on the line. Now." Within an hour, the station was fully awake. Scientists, military personnel, and communications experts crowded the command center. On the main screen, the serious face of Admiral John Carter looked out at them from Earth. "Tell me everything again, Commander Wilson," he said. Kate explained the signal, its origin, and what their early translation efforts had revealed. As she spoke, more information appeared on a side screen. The station's AI was processing the alien transmission, extracting more data. "They call themselves the Novalians," said Dr. Alan Peterson, the station's lead xenolinguist. "From what we can tell, they're under attack by something called the Drakthar Dominion, some kind of empire that's expanding through their region of space. And they're asking for our help?" Admiral Carter looked skeptical. "Why us? We've barely left our own solar system." Dr. Peterson adjusted his glasses. "That's the interesting part, sir. According to the message, they've heard of us. Or at least, they've heard of Earth." "Explain," said the Admiral. "They refer to Earth as a death world." "It seems that in their classification system, Earth is an extremely harsh environment. The message mentions that they hope the hardy species from the death world might be able to help them." A silence fell over both rooms as everyone processed this information. "They think we're tough because our planet tried to kill us for millions of years," Kate said slowly. "Exactly," Dr. Peterson nodded. "To them, we're the ultimate survivors." "Admiral," Carter's expression turned thoughtful. "How many ships do we have ready for deep space travel?" The question surprised Kate. "Sir, are you suggesting we respond to this call?" "I'm asking how many ships, Commander." Kate nodded to Rick, who quickly pulled up the information. "We have the UES Defender ready for its shakedown cruise. 4 heavy cruisers are operational, and we could have 12 support vessels ready within 2 weeks," Rick reported. "Not much of a fleet," muttered someone in the room. "But it's all we have," Admiral Carter said firmly. "I'll speak with the United Earth Council immediately. In the meantime, Commander Wilson, I want you to put together a response team. Dr. Peterson will lead translation efforts. I want to know everything about these Novalians and the threat they're facing." What about a military response team? Kate asked. I'm putting you in charge of that as well. Choose who you need. If the council approves, we'll be sending help. After the call ended, the command center erupted in conversation. Kate held up her hand for silence. You heard the Admiral. This is not a drill. We may be about to make humanity's first contact with an alien species, and it might be in the middle of a war zone. I need everyone at their best. The next 3 days passed in a blur of activity. Sleep became a luxury as Kate coordinated with teams across the station and on Earth. The translation team made breakthroughs hourly, learning more about the Novalians and their plight. On the third day, Kate sat in a meeting with Olivia Martinez, Earth's top military strategist who had arrived on the first shuttle from Earth. The Novalians evolved on a low-gravity world with a thick atmosphere, Olivia explained, showing images extracted from the alien transmission. Their tall, thin beings adapted to an environment much gentler than Earth's. And the Drakthar? Kate asked, still piecing that together. They appear to be from a world more like ours, but not as extreme. That might give us an advantage. A knock on the door interrupted them. Rick Harris entered, his face showing both excitement and concern. The council has voted, he announced. Operation Helping Hand has been approved, we're going. Kate felt a mix of emotions, fear, excitement, determination. When? Fleet assembly begins immediately. Admiral Carter is on his way up to take command. The Defender will serve as the flagship. Later that night, Kate stood by the large observation window in her quarters. The Earth hung below, beautiful and blue. For all her years in space, the sight still took her breath away. Her communication unit beeped. A message from Admiral Carter. Pack your bags, Commander Wilson. You're coming with us as my second in command. Humanity's first interstellar rescue. Mission leaves in 3 weeks. Kate looked back at Earth. Throughout human history, people had looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. Now they knew they weren't, and their first act as a spacefaring species would be to answer a call for help. She thought about the message, about the Novalians calling Earth a death world. Maybe they were right. Earth had shaped humanity through harsh conditions, natural, disasters, predators, disease, and climate extremes. But it had also taught humans to care for each other, to help those in need. Perhaps being Deathworlders wasn't just about being tough. Perhaps it was also about knowing when to fight and when to help. Kate turned from the window and began to pack. Blue light flashed as the Earth fleet emerged from slipspace. After 6 weeks of travel, they had arrived at the edge of the Novalian system. The journey had been long, but uneventful, giving the crews time to train and prepare for whatever they might find. On the bridge of the Defender, Admiral Carter stood from his command chair. The main screen showed the view ahead, a blue-green planet surrounded by debris and unfamiliar ships. Status report, he ordered. All ships present and accounted for, Admiral, reported First Officer Ellen Davis. No damage from the jump, Captain. Miller studied the tactical display. We're detecting multiple vessels around the planet. Most appear to be in a blockade formation. There's a lot of debris in orbit. Looks like destroyed space stations and satellites. Admiral Carter frowned. Life signs on the planet? Readings show approximately 4 billion life forms on the surface, said the science officer. But we're picking up signs of bombardment. Several major cities appear to be damaged. And the Drakthar ships? Asked Commander Wilson. 23 vessels detected. 15 in blockade formation, the rest in low orbit. They're continuing to fire on surface targets. Admiral Carter's face hardened. Open a channel to the fleet. When the channel was ready, he spoke clearly. This is Admiral Carter. We have arrived at Nova as planned. The situation appears to be as the Novalians described. Their planet is under attack and blockade by Drakthar forces. Our mission is to break that blockade and protect the Novalian people. He paused. This is humanity's first interstellar conflict. Let's show the universe what we stand for. Carter out. He turned to Communications Officer Patricia Lee. Try to contact the Novalian Defense Forces. Let them know we've arrived. Patricia worked at her console, sending messages on various frequencies. After several tense minutes, she looked up excitedly. "Admiral, I'm getting a response. It's weak, but definitely Navalian." "On screen," ordered the Admiral. The image that appeared was grainy and flickered often, but it showed a thin, tall being with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. The alien appeared to be in some kind of underground bunker, with damaged equipment visible in the background. "This is Ambassador Zinthar of Nova," the alien said in a melodic voice. The ship's translation system converted the words to English. You actually came. I can hardly believe it." Admiral Carter stepped forward. "I am Admiral John Carter of Earth. We received your distress call and came to offer assistance." The alien's large eyes blinked rapidly. What humans would later learn was a sign of strong emotion for Novalians. "We sent the message to dozens of species. Only you responded." The ambassador leaned closer to the screen. "You are human? From the planet Earth?" "Yes. We've brought a fleet to help break the Drakthar blockade." Ambassador Zinthar seemed to hesitate. "You should know that the Drakthar are powerful. Their technology is advanced, and they have conquered many worlds. Why would you risk yourselves? For people you've never met?" Kate stepped forward to stand beside the Admiral. "Because it's the right thing to do. You asked for help and we came. That's what humans do." The ambassador studied them with those large eyes. "We have heard stories of your kind. Some believe them to be mere legends, beings who evolved on a world so harsh that it would kill most sentient species within days. We did not know if such creatures could exist, let alone achieve space travel." Before Admiral Carter could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Admiral," Captain Miller called out, "5 Drakthar vessels are breaking from the blockade. They're heading our way." "Battle stations," ordered the Admiral. He turned back to the screen. "Ambassador, we need to cut this short. We'll contact you again once we've dealt with these ships." "Be careful, Admiral," said Zinthar. "The Drakthar show no mercy." The screen went dark as the connection ended. Admiral Carter turned to his bridge crew. "Prepare for combat. Order the fleet into defensive formation Delta." The Earth ships moved into position. The 4 heavy cruisers formed a protective screen around the smaller support vessels, with the Defender at the center, ready to provide fire support. On the UES Intrepid, Lieutenant Susan Clark felt the vibration as the ship's weapons systems came online. From her station in engineering, she monitored the power levels, making sure the engines and weapons had all the energy they needed. "First combat engagement," muttered Ben Wright beside her. "Never thought I'd see actual aliens, let alone fight them." Susan nodded. "Just keep the power flowing. Let the weapons officers worry about the fighting." The Drakthar ships approached rapidly. They were angular vessels with sharp, blade-like extensions. Their hulls were a dark metallic red that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "They're scanning us," reported the science officer on the Defender's bridge. "I think they're trying to figure out what we are." "Let's give them something to think about," said Admiral Carter. "Target the lead vessel. Warning shots only. I want to see how they respond." The Defender fired its forward lasers, sending bright blue beams just past the lead Drakthar ship. The response came immediately. All 5 enemy vessels opened fire, their weapons releasing pulses of red energy. "Evasive maneuvers," ordered Captain Miller. The Earth ships scattered, avoiding most of the blasts. Those that hit were absorbed by the shields. "Shield status?" asked the Admiral. "Holding at 87%, replied First Officer Davis. "Their weapons are powerful but not overwhelming." Admiral Carter nodded. "Return fire. Target their weapon systems only." The battle was joined as both sides exchanged fire. The Earth ships moved with surprising agility for their size, a testament to human engineering and the skill of their pilots. The Drakthar seemed caught off guard by the humans' tactics, clearly expecting less resistance. On the UES Guardian, one of the heavy cruisers, Marine Colonel George Washington, watched the battle from the troop deck. His Marines were ready if boarding actions became necessary. "They fight like they expect us to run," he observed to his second-in-command. "Maybe that's what usually happens," the officer replied. "Maybe no one stands up to them." After 10 minutes of fierce exchange, 2 of the Drakthar ships showed signs of damage. Their movements became sluggish and their fire less coordinated. Admiral called out Intelligence Officer Daniel White, who had been analyzing the enemy tactics. "I think they're pulling back." Sure enough, the 5 Drakthar vessels were retreating toward the blockade. "Hold fire," ordered Admiral Carter. "Let them go." As the bridge crew relaxed slightly, Commander Wilson studied the tactical display. That was just a probing attack. They wanted to see what we're capable of. "And now they know we can fight," said the Admiral. "But they don't know everything we can do." He turned to Patricia Lee. "Contact the Novalian ambassador again. It's time we had a proper meeting." 4 hours later, a small Novalian shuttle docked with the Defender. Security teams stood ready as the airlock opened, revealing Ambassador Zinthar and 2 other Novalians. The differences between the species became immediately apparent. The Novalians were nearly 7 feet tall but incredibly thin. Their limbs looked fragile, their movements careful and deliberate. They wore breathing masks that added a slight mist to the air around their faces. Their lungs needed more moisture than Earth-normal air contained. Admiral Carter, Commander Wilson, and Captain Miller stepped forward to greet them. The Novalians moved with obvious discomfort, struggling with the ship's gravity. "Welcome aboard the Defender," said Admiral Carter. "We can adjust the gravity in the conference room to make you more comfortable." "Thank you," replied Ambassador Zinthar, his voice strained. "Your world, it would kill us in days. The gravity alone would crush our bones. The atmospheric pressure would collapse our lungs. Your bacteria would consume us." As they walked slowly to the conference room, the ambassador looked at the human officers with a mixture of fear and awe. "You evolved on what our scientists classify as a Class 5 death world. The Drakthar come from a Class 3, and they've conquered hundreds of worlds. They've never encountered a species from conditions as harsh as yours." In the conference room, with gravity reduced to Novalian comfort levels, the real discussion began. A discussion that would change the course of the battle, for Nova, and perhaps the future of the galaxy. In the conference room of the Defender, humans and Novalians shared information. The gravity was set to Novalian normal, making the humans feel unusually strong and the aliens more comfortable. Maps and tactical displays floated as holograms. Above the table, "The Drakthar began their attack 3 months ago," Ambassador Zinthar explained. His long fingers traced the path of the invasion on the holographic map. "They destroyed our outer colonies first, then moved to Nova itself. We had some defenses, but nothing that could match their fleet." Intelligence Officer Daniel White studied the data carefully. "What are their tactics? Their weaknesses?" "They rely on overwhelming force," said one of the other Novalians, introduced as General Krell, head of Nova's defense forces. "They attack with large numbers, counting on their opponents' fear. When they board enemy vessels, they adjust the environmental settings to their preference. Higher gravity, different air mix." Admiral Carter leaned forward. "Tell us more about these environmental settings." "The Drakthar evolved on what we classify as a Class 3 world," explained Zinthar. "Higher gravity than ours, more radiation, more atmospheric pressure. They believe this makes them naturally superior to species like us, who evolved in gentler conditions." "But not superior to us," said Commander Wilson. The Novalians looked at her. "No," agreed Zinthar. "By our classification, Earth is a Class 5 death world. Almost no sentient species evolve in such conditions. The gravity, the pathogens, the predators, the weather extremes. Most beings would perish quickly on your world." "Captain," Miller smiled slightly. "We call it home." Plans formed quickly after that. The Earth fleet would not try to defeat the entire Drakthar blockade in space combat. Instead, they would use a different approach, one that played to human strengths. "We'll send boarding parties," explained Admiral Carter, outlining the strategy. "Small, fast ships will get our Marines onto the Drakthar vessels. We'll take their ships from the inside." General Krell looked doubtful. "The Drakthar are fierce warriors, Admiral. They will adjust their ships' environments to weaken any borders." "That's exactly what we're counting on," said Colonel George Washington with a grim smile. "Let them make their ships feel like home. For us, that's just a normal day on Earth." The plan moved forward quickly. Within hours, Lieutenant Roy Bennett found himself leading a team of 12 Special Forces soldiers on a small, fast transport heading for a Drakthar cruiser. Roy was 32, with sandy hair and a quiet confidence that his team trusted completely. "Remember the plan," he told his team as they approached the enemy ship. "They'll try to increase gravity and adjust the air to weaken us. But what they consider emergency high gravity is just normal Earth conditions. Don't show any reaction. Let them think it's working." Their transport docked with the Drakthar ship using a specialized cutting tool that bypassed the regular airlock. The team moved in swiftly, wearing combat armor that protected them from both weapons and environmental hazards. The first Drakthar they encountered were shocked by the intrusion. The aliens were shorter than humans but heavily built, with thick limbs and ridged skin that looked almost armored. They wore minimal protective gear, clearly confident in their physical superiority. That confidence vanished when the human soldiers engaged them in combat. The Drakthar fought fiercely, but the humans moved with unexpected speed and strength. Roy took down 2 enemy soldiers with precise stun shots, while his team secured the corridor. "They've adjusted the environmental controls," reported one of Roy's team, checking a sensor on her armor. "Gravity increased to what they think is punishing levels." Roy nodded. "Perfect. Move forward to the engine room." Across the Drakthar fleet, similar scenes played out as human boarding parties infiltrated ship after ship. On the Drakthar command, vessel, the alien captain, a battle-scarred veteran named Crag Vor, received increasingly disturbing reports. "Impossible," he growled at his second-in-command. "No species could function effectively under such conditions. Increase gravity further." "We already have it at maximum," replied his officer nervously. "The intruders show no signs of distress. They move as if they're used to it." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Susan Clark had boarded a different Drakthar vessel with a small team of engineers. Their mission was not combat but sabotage. While the Marines engaged the Drakthar directly, Susan's team worked to hack into the enemy ship's systems. "Their computer architecture is different, but the principles are similar," Susan muttered as she connected her equipment to a Drakthar control panel. Her fingers flew over her device, testing different access approaches. "How much longer?" asked one of her team, nervously watching the door. "Almost there, I got it." Susan's face lit up as she gained access. "Now let's really make them uncomfortable." She began adjusting the ship's environmental settings, not to human normal, but to what would feel extreme even to the Drakthar. Temperatures rose in some sections, dropped in others. Oxygen levels increased to what humans found invigorating, but left the Drakthar hyperventilating. On the Defender, Admiral Carter watched the tactical display as more and more Drakthar ships showed signs of internal fighting. "It's working," said Commander Wilson, standing beside him. "The Drakthar never expected to be boarded. They certainly never expected boarders who could function better than they do in their own preferred environment." "Our Marines are securing the engine rooms and bridges," reported Captain Miller. "3 enemy ships already completely under our control." Admiral Carter nodded. "And the Novalian resistance?" "They're launching their attack now," said Intelligence Officer White. "With the blockade breaking up, their fighters are making it into space." On Nova's surface, Novalian resistance fighters emerged from hiding, striking at Drakthar ground forces. The coordinated attack caught the invaders by surprise. Accustomed to facing terrified opponents from soft worlds, they found themselves battling not only the determined Novalians but also dealing with the loss of their orbital support. In the medical bay of the UES Mercy, Dr. Lisa Brown prepared for incoming casualties. Both human and Novalian medical teams worked side by side, ready to treat the injured from both sides of the conflict. The first patients arrived, human Marines with minor injuries, Novalian fighters with more serious wounds, and even some Drakthar, prisoners who needed medical attention. Different biologies, same principles, Dr. Brown told her team as they worked. Every being wants to live. Our job is to help them do that. By the end of the day, the tide had turned dramatically. Of the 23 Drakthar ships that had been blockading Nova, 8 were now under human control. 5 had been disabled by Novalian fighters, and the rest had retreated to the outer system. In the Defenders' conference room, now adjusted, back to Earth normal gravity, Admiral Carter met with his officers to assess the situation. "The Drakthar are regrouping," said Commander Wilson. "Our scans show they've called for reinforcements." "How long until they arrive?" asked the Admiral. 3 days, perhaps 4, replied Captain Miller. "And intelligence suggests their Supreme Commander is coming personally. He apparently doesn't believe the reports of what happened today." Admiral Carter's expression was serious. "They've never faced a species like us before. They don't understand what they're dealing with." He looked around at his officers. "But they will. Prepare the fleet for the next phase. The real battle is yet to come." As the meeting ended, Kate Wilson paused beside a viewport, looking out at the blue-green planet they had come to save. Somewhere down there, millions of Novalians were experiencing their first taste of hope after months of brutal occupation. All because humans, creatures from a world so harsh it was classified as a death world, had answered their call for help. The true test was coming, but already, humanity had changed the course of this war. And perhaps, Kate thought, the course of galactic history as well. 3 days passed quickly as both sides prepared for the final battle. The Earth fleet worked with Novalian engineers to repair damaged ships and set up planetary defenses. The Drakthar, having lost nearly half their blockade force, waited for reinforcements at the edge of the system. On the morning of the 4th day, sensors detected multiple slip space ruptures. The Drakthar reinforcements had arrived. 27 new vessels, reported Captain Miller on the Defender's bridge, including one ship twice the size of the others. That must be their command vessel. Admiral Carter studied the tactical display. The new Drakthar fleet was impressive, larger than the Earth fleet even with the ships they had captured. But numbers weren't everything. "They'll expect us to be defensive," the Admiral said, "to form a protective screen around Nova and wait for their attack." He looked at Commander Wilson. "Let's do the opposite. Contact Colonel Washington. It's time for our most daring move yet." Aboard the Drakthar flagship, Supreme Commander Kravax of the Dominion stood on his command deck. He was larger than the average Drakthar, his ridged skin bearing the ceremonial scars of 100 victories. His yellow eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display showing the Earth fleet. "So these are the creatures who interfered with our conquest," he said to his officers. "A species from an unknown world who dared to challenge the Dominion." "The reports are concerning, Supreme Commander," said his chief strategist nervously. "They boarded our ships and continued to function even under maximum gravity settings." Kravax made a dismissive gesture. "Exaggerations and excuses for failure. No species could evolve in conditions harsh enough to make our world seem gentle." He pointed to the display. "Prepare all ships for attack. We will crush these newcomers and complete our conquest of Nova. The Novalians will learn what happens to those who seek outside help against the Dominion." As the Drakthar fleet began to move into attack formation, alarms sounded throughout the flagship. "Supreme Commander," called out a sensor officer, "the Earth fleet is moving. They're coming straight at us." Kravax watched in surprise as the human ships accelerated toward his fleet. "They dare to attack us directly, with inferior numbers?" He laughed. "Brave but foolish. Prepare to receive them." What the Drakthar commander didn't know was that the Earth ships were merely a distraction. While the fleet engaged the Drakthar, vessels directly, a single ship, the Defender, broke from formation and accelerated toward the Drakthar flagship. "They've taken the bait," said Captain Miller, watching as Drakthar vessels moved to intercept the main Earth fleet. "Their attention is divided." Admiral Carter nodded. "Full power to engines and shields. We need to get close enough for the boarding teams." The Defender raced through space, evading fire from the few Drakthar ships that noticed its approach. On the ship's marine deck, Colonel George Washington addressed the largest boarding party yet assembled, 50 of Earth's best soldiers led by Sergeant Amy Richardson. Amy was 35, with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun and eyes that had seen combat on Earth before ever reaching space. She checked her weapon one last time as she listened to Colonel Washington's final instructions. "This is the heart of the Drakthar fleet, he told the assembled Marines. Their supreme commander is on that flagship. Our mission is simple: board the vessel, fight our way to the bridge, and capture their leader. If we succeed, we may end this war today. The Defender took heavy fire as it approached the massive Drakthar flagship. Shields weakened under the barrage, but the ship pressed forward. Boarding range in 30 seconds, reported First Officer Davis. Admiral Carter turned to Colonel Washington. It's time. Get your people ready. The Defender's specialized boarding craft launched, streaking toward the Drakthar flagship. Point defense weapons tried to target them, but the small, fast craft were difficult to hit. 3 were destroyed, but the rest reached the larger ship's hull, attaching like metallic parasites and cutting their way inside. Sergeant Richardson led her team through the breach, immediately encountering resistance. The Drakthar fought fiercely, but the humans had learned their opponent's tactics. The aliens attempted to use their physical strength, evolved on a higher gravity world, to overpower the boarders. What they didn't understand was that Earth's gravity was higher still. Push forward, Amy ordered as her team secured corridor after corridor, engineering first, then the bridge. Meanwhile, across the system, the battle raged between the main fleets. Human tactics were unpredictable to the Drakthar, who were used to opponents who fought defensively, trying to survive rather than win. The Earth ships attacked aggressively, targeting specific weaknesses Lieutenant Clark's engineering teams had discovered in the Drakthar vessel designs. On Nova's surface, Novalian resistance fighters watched the space battle through telescopes and sensors, cheering each Drakthar ship that was disabled or destroyed. For the first time in months, their world dared to hope. Back on the Drakthar flagship, Sergeant Richardson's team fought their way deeper into the massive vessel. They encountered increasing resistance as they approached sensitive areas. The Drakthar defenders were elite troops, better trained and equipped than those they had faced before. They've sealed the access to the command deck, reported one of Amy's team, examining a security door. We'll need explosives. As they prepared to breach the door, the ship's internal communication system activated. A harsh voice spoke in the Drakthar language, which their translators converted to English. Attention, human intruders. This is Supreme Commander Kravax. Your effort is futile. Even now my fleet surrounds your vessels. Surrender, and I may spare your homeworld when we find it. Amy looked at her team. He sounds worried. Set the charges. The explosives blew the door open, and the human Marines surged onto the command deck. The elite Drakthar guards fought desperately, but the humans' training and their natural advantages proved decisive. Within minutes, the deck was secured, with only Supreme Commander Kravax still standing, surrounded by human weapons. The Drakthar commander was massive, nearly 7 feet tall and heavily muscled. He stared at the humans with a mixture of rage and disbelief. Impossible, he hissed. No species could evolve in such conditions and achieve spaceflight before destroying themselves. That's humanity for you, Amy replied calmly. We survived, our world, and we'll help others survive you. With their supreme commander captured and their flagship under enemy control, the Drakthar fleet fell into disarray. Some ships continued fighting, but others began to retreat. The battle turned decisively in Earth's favor. 1 week later, representatives from a dozen worlds gathered on Nova for a historic ceremony. The Drakthar Dominion had agreed to withdraw from Novalian space and release all conquered worlds under the terms of a treaty signed by Supreme Commander Kravax, now a prisoner of war. Ambassador Zinthar addressed the assembled delegates in the rebuilt Novalian capital. Today marks a new era for our region of the galaxy. The Drakthar believed that their evolutionary path made them destined to rule. They never imagined facing species forged in conditions far harsher than their own. Admiral Carter stood with his officers, watching as representatives from previously subjugated worlds approached to express their gratitude. News of Earth's victory had spread quickly through the nearby systems, and already, diplomatic missions from 20 different species were requesting to visit Earth. What happens now? Asked Kate Wilson, standing beside the Admiral. Now we build, he replied. We came to answer a distress call and ended up changing the balance of power in this region of space. He looked around at the diverse beings gathered in the hall. Earth is no longer alone in the universe. We have allies, friends, and yes, probably some enemies too. As preparations began for most of the fleet to return home, Admiral Carter appointed Laura Phillips, a skilled diplomat, as Earth's first ambassador to Nova. The Defender would remain in the system as an embassy ship and to help with rebuilding efforts. Captain Miller found Kate on an observation deck of the Novalian space station, looking out at the stars. "Quite a view," he said, joining her. "It's beautiful," she agreed. "And somewhere out there are thousands of worlds we know nothing about. Some friendly, some not. Does that worry you?" Kate thought about it before answering. "No. Today we learned something important. We may have evolved on a harsh world, but that harshness gave us strength, endurance, and something else. The desire to help others who didn't have those advantages." As they watched, a Novalian transport ship passed by the window, escorted by Earth fighters. The once broken world below was healing, protected now by the unlikely guardians from a distant death world. Earth's Deathworlders had ventured into the stars, answering a cry for help. They would continue forward as defenders of those who needed them, carrying a message to the galaxy that tyranny would find no safe harbor among the stars, not while humanity sailed the void. The space around Earth buzzed with activity. Ships of various sizes moved into formation, their metal hulls gleaming in the sunlight. At the center of this activity floated the UES Defender, the largest and most advanced ship humans had ever built. Though designed for exploration and defense, it now prepared for its first real mission, a rescue operation 20 light-years from home. Captain Frank Miller stood on the bridge of the Defender, watching the final preparations through the main viewport. At 52, Frank had spent most of his life in space. His gray hair and weathered face showed his years of service. He had commanded 3 ships before this one, but never for a mission like this. "Status report," he called out to his bridge crew. "All systems green, Captain," replied First Officer Ellen Davis from her station. "The last of the supplies are being loaded now." Frank nodded. In 3 weeks, they had transformed the Defender from an untested vessel into the flagship of humanity's first interstellar fleet. The ship now carried not just weapons, but medical supplies, emergency rations, and habitat modules, everything they might need to help the Novalians. The communication panel chimed. "Captain Admiral Carter and Commander Wilson have arrived. They're on their way to the bridge." Frank straightened his uniform. The mission was about to begin. Admiral John Carter entered the bridge with Commander Kate Wilson close behind. The bridge crew stood at attention. "At ease," said the Admiral. He was a tall man with dark skin and serious eyes. "Captain Miller, is your ship ready?" "Yes, Admiral. The Defender is fully operational and ready for your command." Admiral Carter nodded. "Good. We launch in 6 hours. Let's make our final preparations." While the officers discussed last-minute details, Lieutenant Susan Clark worked deep within the ship's engineering section. As chief engineer of the UES Intrepid, one of the 4 heavy cruisers joining the mission, she had a critical job. The new faster-than-light drives, or slip-space engines, as the crews called them, needed final adjustments. "Try it now, Susan A." called to her assistant, Ben Wright. She wiped sweat from her forehead, leaving a smudge of grease. Ben entered a series of commands into his tablet. The large engine core hummed, its blue light brightening. "Power flow is stable," Ben reported. "I think we fixed the fluctuation problem." Susan smiled. "Good. We'll need these engines running perfectly for the jump to the Novalian system." She tapped her communication badge. "Clark to bridge. Engine modifications complete. We're ready for slip space travel." Across the fleet, similar scenes played out as crew members made final preparations. On the UES Mercy, one of the support vessels, Dr. Lisa Brown organized her medical team. They had spent the past week studying the limited information they had on Novalian biology. "Remember," she told her staff, "these beings evolved on a world with much less gravity than Earth. Their bones are likely more fragile than ours. We'll need to be extremely gentle with any injured Novalians we treat." Her team nodded, making notes on their tablets. One of the younger doctors raised a hand. Dr. Brown, what about the Drakthar? If we have injured enemies, will we treat them too? Lisa looked at him steadily. We're doctors first. If we encounter injured Drakthar, we will provide medical care. That's who we are. Meanwhile, in the Defenders' large training room, Marine Colonel George Washington put his troops through final exercises. Despite his name, which had earned him many jokes throughout his career, George was a serious and dedicated officer. His dark eyes watched every move his Marines made as they practiced in simulated low-gravity conditions. Faster, he called out. The Novalians evolved in low gravity. The Drakthar might be similar. You need to be ready to fight effectively no matter what conditions we encounter. The Marines moved through the training course, adjusting their tactics. They carried special weapons designed for space combat. Weapons that wouldn't puncture ship hulls or cause catastrophic decompression. Remember, George told them as they finished the exercise, we're going as protectors, not conquerors. Our job is to save lives when possible. Take them only when necessary. In her temporary quarters aboard the Defender, Kate Wilson reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The translation team led by Dr. Peterson had made significant progress, understanding the Novalian language. More distress signals had arrived, painting a grim picture of the situation. The door chimed. Come in, Kate called. Admiral Carter entered. Getting settled in? Kate stood. Yes, sir. Just reviewing the latest. Updates from the Novalian system. And? The Admiral took a seat across from her. Not good. The Drakthar have established a blockade around the planet. They're systematically destroying orbital platforms and targeting ground installations. The Novalians have some defensive capabilities, but they're being overwhelmed. Admiral Carter nodded grimly. Do we know why the Drakthar are attacking them? From what we can piece together, the Drakthar believe it's their destiny to rule. They see species from softer worlds as natural subjects. The Novalians refuse to submit, so they're being made an example of. Then we'd better get there quickly. The Admiral stood and walked to the small window in Kate's quarters. Earth was visible, a blue jewel against the blackness of space. Do you think we're doing the right thing, Kate? Rushing into an interstellar conflict when we've barely left our own solar system? Kate considered the question carefully. I think helping others when they ask for help is always the right thing. That's what makes us human. The Admiral smiled slightly. Let's hope our humanity is enough against the Drakthar. The final hours before launch passed quickly. Families said goodbye through video calls. Politicians made speeches about humanity's first steps onto the galactic stage. Religious leaders offered prayers for the fleet's safe return. On the Defender's bridge, Admiral Carter took his place in the command chair. Captain Miller stood at his right, Commander Wilson at his left. All ships report ready, Admiral, said the communications officer. Admiral Carter nodded. Open a channel to the fleet. When the channel opened, he spoke clearly and firmly. Men and women of Earth's fleet, today we embark on the most important mission in human history. We go not just as explorers or warriors, but as helpers. Somewhere, out there, people we've never met are fighting for their lives and they've asked for our help. We don't know exactly what we'll find when we reach the Novalian system. We don't know if our technology and our courage will be enough against the Drakthar, but we do know this. We will try our hardest. We will show the universe that humanity answers when someone calls for help. He paused, looking around at the bridge crew. Set course for the Novalian system. Prepare for slipspace jump on my mark. The fleet moved into final position. On each ship, engine rooms hummed with power as the slipspace drives charged. Admiral Carter gave one last look at Earth. Mark. In a flash of blue light, the fleet disappeared, beginning its 6-week journey to answer an alien cry for help.